I'm going to first give you a little background to the standard kind of media representation about Africa. Hope for Africa. This is white supremacy at its core. Now, this is a point of departure for this discussion, white supremacy. It's not the place I'm going to end up at. I'm not going to end up at the end by taking you gently through a discussion that gets to the point where we finally admit that there's some white supremacy involved. It's starting from a place of accepting that this is white supremacy. Hope is in white, the word. Red is for Africa, which is in blood, basically. This is think tank material. It's Newsweek, it's Time, it's U.S. News and World Report, it's Los Angeles Times, International Herald Tribune, it's the BBC, it's National Public Radio. It's consistent, almost consistent, an establishment narrative about Africa, which on its face says, we need to rescue the Africans from themselves. We need to rescue them from the disease. We need to rescue them from the environment. These are all themes that are very common. And this is a perfect example. And it's used to sell something. So what's for sale? What are you being sold or convinced to buy? Suffering. You're basically funding suffering. If you give $20 to Hope, to Care International, if you give $20 to Save the Children, if you give $1,000 to Doctors Without Borders, this is the purpose of this photograph. It's to generate that income to serve those organizations. And I'll get into that more later. But this is the standard propaganda. This is basically the kind of propaganda we get all over the place. Many people know about Darfur. The whole subject of genocide in Darfur has become a very contentious subject at a certain level. Smith College hosted this event because at Smith College you've got an English professor who became very prominent in the whole Sudan and Darfur movement. And he's been taking State Department information straight from the State Department, producing reports, writing articles. He's an English professor. He's a very good writer. He creates a good, well-thought-out article, but it's absolute nonsense. It's State Department, CIA information coming from a guy named Roger Winter in Sudan. And I'll mention him later. So, and by the way, that poster is very expensive flyers. Who funds these expensive events? It wasn't Smith College. This one was funded by an organization called Witnessing Darfur, or the Save Darfur movement in Western Mass, the Coalition to Save Darfur, and the STAND movement, which is Students Taking Action Against Darfur Now, all funded by the Center for American Progress, who funds an organization called Enough, who funds them. And the money coming from the Center for American Progress is hidden. So where it's actually coming from is uncertain. But this is an expensive flyer. You don't see an expensive flyer up for the Brecht Forum, and I'm not going to blame Russell or Sheila about that. So